The Winford Academy is located in an old town on Helen Hill where jousting, a sport involving combat on horseback, is incredibly popular. Mizuno Takahiro, one of the students at Winford Academy, calls jousting a miracle because it brought him to a destined meeting with someone. On the day of the tournament, Aintree Celia Kumani, the student council president of Winford Academy, faced off against Vice President Avery Rana. Celia launched a graceful attack that thrilled the audience. As Rana seemed to pause, Celia asked if she was conceding, but Rana requested another try. Suddenly, Celia noticed a riderless horse running across the field. The horse had escaped from its stable, leaving everyone puzzled. Meanwhile, Kisaki Miyo, walking alone, was startled as the galloping horse headed straight toward her. Terrified, she screamed as the horse chased her past a road barrier. The horse grabbed Miyo's clothing with its teeth, tearing it and causing her to fall to the ground. Miyo couldn't understand why the horse was so aggressive. Just as it was about to trample her, Takahiro appeared, calling the horse Sakura. He worked to calm the rampaging horse and eventually succeeded. Relieved, Miyo watched as Takahiro removed a small piece of wood lodged in Sakura's leg, the cause of its distress. Smiling, Miyo felt at ease as Sakura regained its composure. Takahiro commented on the horse's beautiful mane, leading Miyo to believe he was complimenting her hair, only to realize he was talking about Sakura. Slightly annoyed, Miyo noticed how Takahiro's primary concern was his horse. Takahiro then asked if Miyo was hurt, and she reassured him that she was fine. Seeing Miyo's torn clothing, Takahiro offered her his uniform jacket. Grateful, Miyo thanked him. Takahiro explained that Sakura was a good horse but overly spirited, which was why she hadn't yet been assigned a jockey. Takahiro invited Miyo to ride Sakura with him, and together they rode through streets lined with cherry blossoms. Miyo admired the scenery, catching a few petals as they drifted in the breeze. It was spring, and Takahiro reflected on how much time had passed since he came to this country. Back at the jousting match, the competition between Celia and Rina continued. Celia successfully landed her lance on Rina's helmet, knocking off its decorative feathers. Declared the winner, Celia was praised by Rina for her skill, though Celia humbly noted that Rina had improved. Celia spurred her horse and rode away as the crowd cheered, convinced she could win the next tournament. Later, Takahiro and Miyo took Sakura to the river for a drink. Miyo asked if Takahiro would return to jousting now that his injury had healed. Takahiro admitted he had quit being a knight. Curious, Miyo asked why he stayed at the academy. Was he planning to joust again or switch from the knight curriculum to the squire program? At that moment, Celia appeared, calling out to Takahiro. Miyo was surprised to see her. Celia asked if Takahiro had considered her offer, leaving Miyo puzzled about their conversation. Celia explained that she wanted Takahiro to become her squire, adding that it would be fantastic if he joined her. Takahiro hadn't decided yet, but Celia assured him she'd wait for his answer, expressing her strong hope that he'd agree. Afterwards, Celia left. Miyo felt proud of Takahiro, impressed that someone as remarkable as Celia wanted him as her squire. She was confident that together they could win the summer tournament and even achieve worldwide greatness. They could form an unbeatable team, just like Takahiro and Julianus once were. As Takahiro prepared to leave with Sakura, Miyo called out, asking him to wait for her. Takahiro and Miyo took Sakura to the stables, where they found Asmussen James tending to the horses. Miyo greeted him cheerfully, and James immediately asked why Takahiro had taken so long to return Sakura. Takahiro apologized, but before he could explain, Miyo jumped in, telling James about how Sakura had chased her and how Takahiro had come to her rescue. However, James pointed out that it was Takahiro's fault Sakura had escaped in the first place. James instructed Takahiro to put Sakura in the stall and feed her, and Takahiro followed his orders without complaint. While Takahiro busied himself feeding Sakura, Miyo mentioned that she would return his uniform jacket later at the cafe. As Miyo walked back to the school, she couldn't help but sniff the jacket she was still wearing, smiling to herself. Just then, Ryuzoji Akane noticed her and curiously asked what she was doing. Startled, Miyo laughed nervously and quickly changed the subject, asking Akane if her jousting practice was going well. Akane replied that she was giving it her all, no matter how close the tournament was. Miyo called her impressive and a favorite to win, though Akane brushed off the compliment, saying it was an exaggeration. Miyo added that many students in other programs had been talking about Akane, but admitted that the top favorite was undeniably Celia. Hearing Celia's name, Akane became momentarily lost in admiration, imagining Celia's incredible skill. Snapping out of it, Akane finally noticed Mio's outfit and asked why she was wearing a boy's uniform. Mio burst out laughing and explained everything to Akane. Later, while working her part-time job at the cafe, Mio found that Akane had shared the story with Hiraji Ayako, who laughed as she heard about Mio and Takahiro's unusual day. Both Akane and Ayako teased Mio, saying it seemed like she was just having a string of bad luck. Mio admitted that unlike Akane and others in the night curriculum, she had no idea how to handle horses. Ayako chimed in, saying that Takahiro was so focused on horses that he probably made things extra challenging for Mio. She shared a Japanese saying, "If you want to win over a knight, start with his horse." Mio nodded, recalling the proverb, but Ayako advised her that it wouldn't be easy since Takahiro was always inseparable from his horse. Ayako then suggested a different approach: start with his stomach. Mio's mind immediately went to carrots. Ayako joked that Mio needed to win Takahiro over, adding that once she did, he could be all hers. Excited by the idea, Mio decided to make a delicious carrot-inspired lunch as a way to thank him. That evening, while walking home, Takahiro saw two small children playing, pretending to joust. Their mother called them inside for dinner, and the sight stirred memories of jousting in Takahiro's mind. Takahiro eventually arrived home at Ayako's cafe, where Mio greeted him warmly. Akane also acknowledged him, and Ayako offered him dinner. Takahiro, however, wanted to put his bag away in his room first. Mio handed back his uniform jacket, thanking him for letting her borrow it. Takahiro accepted it, noticing a cherry blossom petal stuck to the fabric. He stared at it silently, lost in thought. Mio asked him what was wrong, but Takahiro said it was nothing and headed to his room. The next morning, Mio was bursting with excitement as she prepared to go to school, carrying the special lunch she made for Takahiro. Meanwhile, in Takahiro's class, their teacher explained how the role of a squire was crucial in helping knights unlock their full potential during the summer tournament. Takahiro, now part of the squire curriculum, listened intently. In the night curriculum class, the students were practicing their jousting skills with lances. Akane was in the class, diligently training alongside her peers. When the break came, Mio hurried to the stables, carrying a special lunch she had prepared for Takahiro. She was brimming with excitement, hoping he would enjoy her carrot-themed meal. When Mio arrived at the stables, she called out for Takahiro, but he was nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, Takahiro was strolling through the back garden when someone called his name. He looked around and found a girl lounging on a swing suspended from a tree, enjoying a sandwich. The girl casually mentioned that her younger sister had made the sandwich for her, so she wasn't planning on sharing it with him. Takahiro asked if she was a second-year student. The girl introduced herself as Asuka Noelle Marys. Sakura, Takahiro's course, kneed repeatedly as Mio called out for him. Curious, Mio approached Sakura, who seemed to be eyeing the lunch basket she was carrying. Mio smiled and decided to offer some of the food to Sakura. To her delight, Sakura eagerly ate the meal she had prepared. Mio felt a wave of joy seeing Sakura enjoy her cooking, and decided to wait for Takahiro's return. Meanwhile, in the back garden, Noelle asked Takahiro if it was true that Celia had asked him to be her squire. She commented that she had heard he still hadn't accepted the offer. Noelle confidently added that she was planning to win the tournament that year and wanted to defeat anyone strong who crossed her path. She then boldly asked Takahiro if he would consider becoming her squire instead. At the same time, Mio noticed Takahiro's jousting helmet lying nearby while feeding Sakura. She picked it up, feeling nostalgic about Takahiro's past as a knight. Mio admired how cool Takahiro had been back then and how he still was now. She found herself deeply admiring him. Back in the garden, Noelle continued her conversation with Takahiro, revealing that she knew a lot about his past, including his time as a knight. She expressed how much it would mean to her if Takahiro joined her as her squire in the tournament, saying it would be a great help. Takahiro didn't give her a direct answer, only saying that he needed to get back to the stables. Noelle suggested they discuss the matter another time and asked him to consider her offer. Takahiro agreed to think about it and left. At the stables, Mio hugged Takahiro's helmet, taking in its scent. She couldn't resist trying it on and declared excitedly that she looked just like a knight. Her excitement was cut short when she suddenly noticed Sakura munching on the rest of the lunch she had prepared for Takahiro. Mio tried to stop Sakura, but it was too late. The horse had eaten everything. Heartbroken, Mio lamented all the time and effort she had spent making the meal. Then Sakura began to move restlessly, prompting Mio to tell her there was no more food left. Suddenly, Sakura let out a loud neighing and broke through the fence that had been holding her. Mio was terrified as Sakura bolted, falling momentarily before getting back up and chasing after Mio. Mio screamed in fear as Sakura pursued her relentlessly. She ran as fast as she could, darting out of the stable and onto the road. At that moment, Officer Bertile was explaining to Ann and Emma that a knight's most important attributes were their mind, skills, and body. The mind needed to remain calm under all circumstances, the skills had to be graceful, and the body should be strikingly attractive to capture the admiration of others. Suddenly, Emma and Ellen noticed Mio running toward them, screaming for help as she was being chased by Sakura, the horse. Alarmed, the two panicked, sensing that something was seriously wrong with the horse. Bertile, who had been closing her eyes while speaking, remained unaware of the chaos. She asked Emma and Ann why they were suddenly so flustered, reminding them that a knight must always stay composed. However, when Bertile finally opened her eyes and saw Sakura chasing Mio, she immediately screamed and started running as fast as she could. Even in her panic, Emma and Ann couldn't help but admire how elegant Bertile looked while running. Meanwhile, Takahiro returned to the stables and was shocked to find Sakura missing from her enclosure. Spotting a fallen lunch basket on the ground, he immediately recognized it as Mio's. Elsewhere, Bertile and Mio were still running for their lives. Distracted, the two ended up tripping and falling, landing on top of each other. Concerned, Mio asked if Bertile was okay. Bertile, flustered and angry, snapped at Mio to get off her. As Mio moved aside, Sakura managed to catch up and grab Bertile's skirt with her teeth, lifting her into the air. Bertile screamed, demanding Sakura put her down. Mio tried yelling at Sakura to calm down, but it didn't work. Desperate, Mio remembered how Takahiro had calmed Sakura before and decided to try the same method. She called Sakura's name, catching the horse's attention. As Sakura turned toward Mio, Bertile's skirt tore and she fell to the ground with a thud. Mio immediately approached Sakura and hugged her, soothing the distressed horse. From a distance, Takahiro spotted Mio holding Sakura and working to calm her down. To his relief, Sakura finally settled, becoming docile again. Bertile, still lying on the ground, was in disbelief over what had just happened. Mio turned to her and reassured her that Sakura was calm now. Emma and Ann quickly ran over to check on Bertile, who was furious. She accused Mio of orchestrating the entire incident, claiming it was a scheme to prevent her, as a tournament favorite, from competing. Mio was taken aback and tried to explain the situation, but Bertile wouldn't hear it. She pointed out Mio's apparent skill with horses and the knight's helmet she was holding, assuming Mio was an experienced knight. Mio insisted she wasn't a knight, but Bertile refused to believe her, vowing not to let Mio off the hook after the embarrassment she had suffered. Emma and Ann tried to help Bertile by covering her torn skirt with what fabric they could find. Meanwhile, Bertile demanded to know Mio's name. Mio introduced herself as Kazaki Mio. Hearing this, Bertile pondered whether Mio was listed in the knight curriculum. Without warning, Bertile threw a glove at Mio. Confused, Mio asked why she had done that. Bertile declared it was a formal duel challenge to defend her honor as a knight. Shocked, Mio dropped the helmet she was holding. Bertile added that since they were both knights, they should settle the matter with a joust. Mio was stunned by the proposal. Watching from afar, Takahiro couldn't believe what he was witnessing. He hadn't expected Mio to participate in a joust. Still, as he observed the unfolding events, Takahiro thought to himself that if fate truly existed, this must be part of it. Mio was startled by this sudden challenge. Takahiro approached Mio, who immediately expressed her inability to joust or duel. Just then, Sakura neighed loudly. That evening at a cafe, Mio shared her concerns about the jousting challenge, feeling utterly lost. Akane acknowledged Bertile's skill but pointed out that she often misunderstood situations and was incredibly stubborn. Ayakato asked Takahiro if the duel could simply be cancelled. Takahiro explained that he and Mio had already discussed the matter with the student council earlier that day, but Reina, speaking on their behalf, declared that the documentation submitted by Bertile was binding and could not be revoked. Mio reiterated that she couldn't joust, but Reina clarified that it was no longer a duel, but a practice match approved by the student council. Mio had no grounds to argue further. Reina also reminded Takahiro that canceling the match after the schedule was set would tarnish the honor of knights, leaving Takahiro speechless. Mio began crying in the cafe, overwhelmed by her predicament. Akane added that Mio had never studied the knight's curriculum, making the situation even more challenging. Suddenly, Mio suggested asking Celia, the student council president, for help, noting that Takahiro was acquainted with her. Takahiro argued that consulting Celia wouldn't make a difference since Rana's explanation was accurate. It would be dishonorable to tarnish Ignite's reputation. Mio, however, insisted that she couldn't duel. Takahiro then mentioned one way to avoid the duel, leaving Winford Academy entirely. Akane was shocked by this suggestion, and Mio quickly rejected the idea, stating she didn't want to leave school. If that was the case, Takahiro said Mio had no choice but to participate in the joust. Mio protested, explaining that she didn't even know how to ride a horse. Ayako, upset, demanded Takahiro take responsibility, blaming him for not being around when Mio delivered his lunch earlier. Akane agreed. Ayako then proposed that Takahiro become Mio's squire. Takahiro admitted he had already considered this, but only for the duel itself. He then asked Mio to start training with him the next day, and Mio, determined, decided to give it her all. The following day, Takahiro and Mio began training together. Mio was shocked by the size and weight of the jousting lance. It was the first time she had ever held one. Takahiro instructed her to grip the lance. Mio hesitated, asking if such a rigid lance could sometimes break. Takahiro explained that it depended on the wielder. Mio struggled to lift the lance with all her strength. Takahiro told her to get accustomed to holding it. Mio complained about its weight, but Takahiro reassured her, explaining that using a lance wasn't about brute strength but balance. He instructed her to grip the shaft firmly, lean her arm and body slightly, and keep one hand steady on her hip. Takahiro also advised her to position the lance securely, aim its tip forward, and ensure the tip didn't touch the ground. Mio tried to lift the jousting lance, but due to her lack of balance, her body was pulled along with the movement of the lance. She ended up running downhill, unable to stop, weaving through a crowd of students heading to school. Ayako saw Mio struggling and shouted for everyone to get out of the way. Mio kept yelling that she couldn't control her steps or the lance. In the chaos, the lance accidentally flipped up the skirts of several students. Shinonome, the school announcer, quickly broadcast the event, reporting that a girl with a lance was running through the crowd of students on their way to school. She also announced that the lance had flown in her direction and tore her skirt. Embarrassed, Shinonome covered her lower body with her hands. Mio, still panicking, shouted that she couldn't hold on any longer, but thankfully, Akane managed to catch the lance in time. Takahiro, who witnessed the entire incident, approached them. Later, Reina summoned Takahiro and Mio to the student council room. She scolded them for causing such a commotion. Mio apologized and Takahiro took the blame, explaining that it was Mio's first time and that he had pushed her too hard. Reina raised an eyebrow and questioned what he meant by first time and pushing her. She asked Mio if what Takahiro said was true. Her vague explanation made Reina doubt they were actually practicing jousting. Reina slapped Takahiro across the face and sent them away. As Takahiro and Mio walked through the school hallway, Mio apologized to him, but he told her not to worry about it. James greeted them and teased Mio for making the morning so entertaining. He also expressed surprise that Takahiro had agreed to be her squire. Takahiro clarified that it was only a temporary arrangement. James then asked if Takahiro had heard about the new transfer student, rumored to be an exceptionally talented girl with the potential to defeat all the top competitors and win the next tournament. James wondered if Takahiro was interested in meeting her. Later, while relaxing on the grass, Takahiro thought about the transfer student rumored to dominate the jousting scene. Suddenly, a small kitten approached him. Assuming it was lost, Takahiro tried to help, but the kitten darted away. Concerned about the dangers of the horses nearby, Takahiro followed. The kitten climbed a tree and leaped into the air. Takahiro reached out to catch it but accidentally grabbed something else instead, a girl's chest. Embarrassed, Takahiro quickly apologized. The girl introduced herself as Lisa. Just then, Lisa's friend Fiona called out to her and approached with her lunch, spicy tacos. Fiona was shocked to see Takahiro's hands still on Lisa's chest and accused them of doing something inappropriate. Fiona dragged Lisa away, muttering about how indecent people could be. She also warned Takahiro not to try anything weird with Lisa. Lisa assured Fiona that nothing happened, then handed the kitten to Fiona, who screamed in fear and begged Lisa to take it away. Lisa, amused, called the kitten adorable. Takahiro sighed, feeling like luck was not on his side that day. During the school break, Takahiro walked outside and ran into Mio, who excitedly showed him her progress with the jousting lance. She explained that after running with it earlier, she had discovered a trick to holding it properly. She waved the lance around, commenting on how strange it was that Takahiro had told her to use only a little strength when handling it. However, Mio suddenly lost her balance and fell, crying out in pain. Seeing her reddened hands, Takahiro smiled, proud of her determination and effort. That day, Takahiro was bathing Sakura, his course. He even asked Sakura if Miyo would be okay, to which Sakura neighed in response. Takahiro assumed Miyo had potential since she had already learned to handle the lance in just one day. Celia then approached him, gently stroking Sakura and praising her as a great horse. Celia mentioned that Riina had told her about the commotion Takahiro caused earlier that morning. Just as Takahiro began explaining, Celia interrupted, asking if he had considered becoming her squire or if he was too busy thinking about Miyo's duel. She also brought up that she had heard about a dish called okonomiyaki from Takahiro's hometown, noting that Takahiro himself was known for making it, though it took a bit of time. She said she could sense his youthful passion in it. Celia acknowledged that Takahiro had chosen to be Miyo's squire and said she looked forward to seeing how it would unfold. She added that she would wait for his answer after Miyo's duel and also look forward to tasting his okonomiyaki. Takahiro apologized to Celia, but suddenly he noticed that the hose he was holding had stopped running. It turned out Sakura was stepping on the hose, blocking the water flow. When Sakura moved her hoof, the water pressure built up, and it sprayed all over Celia by accident. Takahiro immediately apologized, but Celia assured him she was fine. He handed her a towel, but as he glanced at her, he was startled to see that her soaking wet clothes clung to her body, highlighting her figure. Embarrassed, he quickly turned away and offered her the towel again. Just then, Riina called out to Celia, asking her to return quickly. However, when Riina saw Celia drenched and Takahiro standing there, she jumped to conclusions. Riina accused Takahiro of being indecent and slapped him hard across the face. Meanwhile, Miyo was practicing jousting in the grassy fields. She aimed her lance at the center of a ring hanging from a tree branch. When she successfully struck the target, she was ecstatic and proudly showed her achievement to Takahiro. Afterward, Takahiro started teaching Miyo the basic rules of jousting. He asked Miyo if she knew what jousting was. Miyo confidently replied that it was a sport where you ride a horse and use a lance to attack your opponent. Takahiro confirmed her answer and elaborated that attacking different parts of the body would yield different scores. For example, hitting the arm was worth 1 point, hitting the stomach earned 2 points, and targeting the head was dangerous and considered against the rules. Miyo nodded in understanding, but then asked, with an innocent curiosity, what would happen if someone hit the chest. She asked this while touching her own chest, which left Takahiro flustered. He quickly clarified that hitting the chest was the same as hitting the stomach, worth 2 points. Miyo then noted that earning 3 points would end the first round and that there were 3 rounds in a match. Takahiro explained all this while gently patting Miyo's head, and Miyo realized how fun jousting could be. Suddenly, a girl on horseback galloped toward Takahiro and Miyo. She pointed her lance straight at them, causing Takahiro to quickly shield Miyo with his arms. The lance stopped just inches from Miyo's face. The girl commended Miyo for her bravery, remarking on how Miyo hadn't flinched or moved her head even slightly. As she removed her helmet, it was revealed that the rider was Noelle. Miyo mentioned that she had seen a carrot at the tip of the lance, so she wasn't worried even if it came close to hitting her. Noelle assured her that she would never aim a real lance at a beginner. However, Takahiro pointed out that it would still be dangerous if the lance accidentally hit her. Noelle confidently replied that she wouldn't make such a mistake. Moreover, she had demonstrated her skills and she thought it would be better if Takahiro spent his time becoming her squire. Just as Takahiro was about to explain his reason, Noelle interrupted, saying she already knew that he wouldn't consider it until Miyo's duel was over. That was why Noelle decided she would help Miyo train. Noelle began helping Miyo with leg stretches. Miyo winced in pain and asked Noelle to go easier on her. Noelle urged Miyo to hang in there, saying that she'd get used to it soon. She explained that Miyo needed to loosen up her leg muscles as warming up would prevent injuries during the duel. Noelle kept pushing, pulling, and stretching Miyo's muscles, leaving Miyo grimacing in pain. After the stretches, Noelle introduced a strength exercise. Miyo had to carry Noelle on her back while walking. Noelle kept urging Miyo to move faster, but Miyo insisted that she couldn't go any further. Takahiro asked Miyo if she was okay, but Noelle dismissed his concern, saying he shouldn't pamper her. There wasn't much time left before the duel, and Miyo needed Spartan training. Noelle also reminded Miyo to maintain her balance. Exhausted, Miyo lost her strength, fell backward onto Takahiro, and all 3 of them tumbled downhill. They ended up lying sprawled on the ground, and Takahiro asked if Noelle and Miyo were okay. Later, Miyo was washing up in the bathroom when Noelle suddenly peeked in, startling her. Noelle commented on how beautiful Miyo's body was, fair, smooth, and free from scars or blemishes. Miyo was slightly embarrassed, realized for the first time how nice her own body looked. Noelle went on to say that she never would have guessed someone with such a gorgeous figure would be jousting. She even joked that she'd allow Miyo to keep Takahiro a little longer. As Miyo noticed scars on Noelle's back, Noelle shared her determination to win the upcoming summer tournament. Meanwhile, Takahiro was cleaning the stables when James appeared, handing him a gift for Miyo. That night, as Miyo lay in bed, she kept thinking about Noelle's dedication to training her. Unable to sleep, she picked up a book about jousting and started reading it. She even tried practicing some of the techniques from the book. The next morning, Takahiro handed Miyo the gift from James. It was a jousting uniform. Takahiro helped her put it on, and Miyo asked him to be gentle since it was her first time wearing armor. Miyo felt that Takahiro was being a bit rough as he helped her put on the armor, but the fit was extremely tight. Takahiro eventually called James over to assist. The sight of the three of them together might have looked suspiciously suggestive to an outsider, but in reality, they were simply trying to get Miyo suited up in her armor. Finally, they succeeded. James complimented the feather decorations on the armor, saying they suited Miyo and made her look like a true knight. Miyo, confused, mentioned that she didn't have feathers, not realizing it was a metaphor for the ornamentation on the armor. James encouraged her to take good care of the old armor and suggested she polish it to bring out its shine. He wished Miyo success in her upcoming duel. James then showed Miyo Sakura, now fully equipped with protective gear. Miyo was in awe at how impressive Sakura looked. James remarked that although Sakura could be a bit mischievous, she was a good horse, and it seemed like she had taken a liking to Miyo. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Miyo hugged Sakura tightly, promising that they would do their best together. She thanked James for everything. Next, Takahiro handed Miyo a helmet, saying she couldn't joust without it. Miyo was surprised and touched that Takahiro would give her his own helmet. She thanked him and tried it on immediately, asking for his opinion on how she looked. Takahiro smiled and told her she looked amazing. With everything ready, Takahiro declared that they were going to train hard that day. Miyo, still trying to catch her breath from all the preparation, pleaded for him to go easy on her. However, Takahiro firmly stated that he wouldn't hold back, not even for his parents, siblings, or, after a slight pause, even his girlfriend. Hearing the word girlfriend, Miyo blushed deeply but quickly shook it off, resolving to give the training her all. Miyo had to duel a knight named Bertile due to a misunderstanding. Not knowing anything about jousting, she spent her days training and learning the basics. Noelle taught Miyo how to properly hold a jousting lance and how to aim it at her opponent. Noelle reminded Miyo to keep her grip firm. Instead of teaching seriously though, Noelle got distracted by squeezing Miyo's chest and even guessed her bust size as 84C. After that, Noelle taught Miyo how to ride a horse. Since it was Miyo's first time, she struggled to find the correct sitting posture. Noelle instructed her to sit up straight. When practicing in armor, Miyo kept getting hit repeatedly. Takahiro advised her not to fear her opponent's lance and to attack first, as dodging could be even more dangerous. The day before the match, Takahiro asked Sakura to look after Miyo. While walking in the back garden, Takahiro suddenly saw Lisa's cat strolling by. He chased after it, caught it, and told the cat not to roam around the area to avoid being hit by horses. The cat meowed in response. Nearby, Lisa and Fiona were sitting together. Fiona called out to Takahiro, who handed her the cat. Fiona told him not to give it to her, suspecting that he was trying to peek at her underwear from his angle. Lisa then remarked that Miyo's technique in holding the lance, riding the horse, and moving her body was all wrong. According to Lisa, letting Miyo duel in that state would be pointless. Takahiro said it was up to Miyo's decision. Besides, Miyo wasn't focused on winning or losing. She just didn't want to run away from the duel. Fiona asked if that meant Miyo was merely participating without intending to win. She didn't like when people jousted just for fun without giving their best effort to win. Takahiro apologized and said he understood how Fiona felt. Fiona was surprised by Takahiro's sudden change in attitude. Lisa then asked if Takahiro was satisfied with Miyo's lack of ambition, adding that her pride as a knight couldn't accept something like that. Taking her cat from Takahiro's arms, Lisa walked away with Fiona following her. Takahiro reflected that knights should never fight if they didn't want to win, but Miyo's situation was different. He wondered if the transfer student could be Lisa. That evening, Takahiro returned to the cafe and was surprised to see Noelle dressed in a maid outfit. When he asked what was going on, Noelle explained that she was doing part-time work temporarily. Although her family usually prohibited her from taking part-time jobs, she had to do it to help a friend. Ayako asked Miyo to rest that day, even though Miyo had previously said jousting wouldn't interfere with her work. Miyo was so enthusiastic about training that she'd exhausted herself. Akane remarked that Miyo's situation wasn't surprising considering how hard she had been training in such a short time. Takahiro thanked Noelle for helping Miyo so much. Noelle brushed it off, saying the rest was up to Miyo. She added that Miyo had performed better than she had expected and wished Mireille could see it. When Takahiro asked who Mireille was, Noelle explained that Mireille was her sweet little sister. Ayaka then told Noel to deliver an order to table number 5. After resting, Miyo came out with Takahiro. He reminded her that the duel was tomorrow. Miyo said everything would end then. She shared how sad she felt. Initially, she had planned to quit school, but the thought of not seeing Takahiro anymore had stopped her. Realizing what she had just confessed, she quickly corrected herself, claiming that the real reason she delayed leaving school was that she wanted to continue jousting with everyone. Everything kept changing, Miyo said, but she couldn't deny that at that moment, she realized she had experienced jousting in the way Takahiro loved the most. Jousting can be scary, painful, and difficult at times, but Miyo felt happy to be involved in something that Takahiro was also part of. That's why Miyo promised to do her best tomorrow. Even if she ended up losing badly, she would still tell everyone that she loved jousting. Takahiro was surprised to hear that, and Miyo blushed. She realized she had just started jousting and wondered if saying something like that was premature. Takahiro told her she was completely wrong. No one had the right to deny someone else's joy, and he encouraged Miyo to be proud. Takahiro admitted he was genuinely happy to know that she enjoyed jousting, which made Miyo smile. When Miyo got home, she immediately soaked in warm water. Her entire body ached, but she felt strangely satisfied. She thought about how she was now like Noel and Akane. Miyo even joked to herself that she was almost like a real knight. Although it was tough and sometimes painful, jousting always brought her joy. Standing in front of a mirror, she looked at her reflection and examined her body. The next morning, Takahiro was getting ready for school. On his way, he heard Miyo calling out to him. He turned around and was startled to see that her hair was now short. Surprised by her new look, he asked what happened to her hair. Miyo nervously asked if it didn't look good on her. Takahiro reassured her that her new haircut looked great, which made Miyo smile in relief. When Takahiro asked why she had cut it, Miyo explained that unlike Noel or Akane, she didn't have their skills, so her long hair would only get in the way. Takahiro agreed with her reasoning. He then asked if she planned to duel only this once. Miyo confirmed it, saying she only wanted to experience it once but had decided she would win. Takahiro lowered his head for a moment and gently patted Miyo's head. Miyo protested, saying she had just styled her hair, but Takahiro playfully messed it up anyway. He told her not to worry and assured her she would win the match. The day of the jousting match between Bear Tile and Miyo finally arrived. Students gathered in the stands, buzzing with excitement. Miyo, already dressed in her armor, seemed visibly nervous. Akane, noticing her unease, decided to help. She suddenly pushed Miyo, causing her to bump into Takahiro. Both Miyo and Takahiro were startled, and Miyo asked what Akane was trying to do. Akane just smiled and said that Miyo wasn't nervous anymore, was she? Miyo realized Akane was right and felt her nerves settle. Both Akane and James smiled in satisfaction. At that moment, Bear Tile, An, and Emma approached them. Bear Tile asked if Miyo was ready for the match, reminding her of the humiliation Bear Tile had suffered before and promising she wouldn't forget it. Miyo retorted that Bear Tile's armor design was just as revealing as the accident she had caused. Anne pointed out that Bear Tile was the only person at school who could pull off armor like that, and Emma added that no one else could wear it quite like her. Bear Tile then turned to Takahiro and asked if he was Miyo's squire. Takahiro introduced himself. Bear Tile mentioned that her horse, Weissrosen, was ready and waiting. She urged Miyo to prepare for the duel. With that, Bear Tile and her two friends walked off. Takahiro asked Miyo if she was ready, and the two headed toward the jousting arena. At the arena, Shinonome began broadcasting the match between Bear Tile and Miyo, hyping it as an extraordinary duel. Takahiro took a moment to share his analysis of Bear Tile's strategy with Miyo. He explained that Bear Tile often used a move called the Feather Fly against weaker opponents. Takahiro advised Miyo to let Bear Tile's lance come close and, at the last moment, dodge it. Then, after Bear Tile moved, Miyo should aim for her left shoulder. Miyo asked why she had to close her eyes. Takahiro explained it was part of their plan. He wanted Miyo to win the first round and, if possible, catch Bear Tile off guard, making it look like Miyo's victory was just luck. This, he said, was the most crucial part of the strategy. Miyo nodded, fully trusting Takahiro's reasoning. Takahiro also pointed out that Bear Tile's attacks weren't as fast as Noel's, reminding Miyo to rely on her training. She understood and asked Takahiro to wish her luck. Meanwhile, Anne handed Bear Tile her lance. Emma wondered what kind of strategy Takahiro and Miyo might have planned. The match began as Bear Tile and Miyo rode to their designated starting positions. Watching from the stands, Noel hoped Miyo would do her best. Both riders spurred their horses forward, charging at each other. Bear Tile was certain of her victory, but Miyo stayed focused and followed Takahiro's instructions. As Bear Tile closed in, Miyo dodged her attack, closed her eyes, and aimed her lance at Bear Tile's left shoulder. The strike was successful, knocking Bear Tile off her horse and giving Miyo the victory in the first round. Takahiro praised Mio for her incredible performance, calling it an impressive first-round win. Mio beamed, grateful for Takahiro's excellent strategy. On the other hand, Bertile was stunned by the outcome. An and Emma tried to comfort her, but Bertile asked if they had noticed something unusual. Mio had closed her eyes when making the strike. That confirmed Bertile's suspicion that Mio was truly a novice knight. As Takahiro and Mio prepared for the second round, Takahiro anticipated that Bertile might use a feint attack targeting Mio's feathers, aiming to knock them off her helmet for points. Bertile, fueled by pride, was determined to crush Mio. Mio asked what she should do, and Takahiro suggested letting Bertile's feint succeed so she could score some points. This would make Bertile overconfident and careless, assuming Mio's earlier victory had been pure luck. Though hesitant at first, Mio agreed to follow Takahiro's instructions. In the second round, as predicted, Bertile's feint attack landed on Mio's stomach, earning her 2 points. Watching from the stands, James recognized Takahiro's clever strategy to let Bertile score, while Noelle and Akane praised both Takahiro's planning and Mio's ability to follow through. Bertile, on the other hand, was perplexed. She had only used a feint, yet Mio hadn't avoided it, solidifying her belief that Mio was inexperienced. Meanwhile, Reina and Celia watched the match from the student council room. They commented on how well Mio was performing for a beginner, showing promising potential. As Mio and Takahiro prepared for the next round, Takahiro predicted that Bertile would play it safe, aiming for points rather than trying to knock Mio off her horse. Bertile would likely think she only needed one more point to win and wouldn't take unnecessary risks. Mio understood. Takahiro added that Bertile probably believed Mio's earlier win was a fluke because of the closed eyes strike. For this round, Takahiro told Mio not to close her eyes. She needed to lean into Bertile's lance, dodge it at the last moment, and then counterattack. Takahiro instructed Mio to strike Bertile's arm with as much force as possible. Mio hesitated but eventually nodded, reassured by Takahiro's confidence in her. Takahiro was confident that Mio could read her opponent's movements because, in his eyes, Mio's ability to observe and react was unmatched. That, he believed, was her greatest weapon at the moment. Once the round began, they galloped toward each other at full speed. Bertile aimed her lance and Mio approached, trying to dodge the attack. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to evade it completely, resulting in a tie. The match was now down to the final decisive round. Watching from the stands, James noted that it seemed Takahiro hadn't considered this possibility in his strategy. Feeling disheartened, Mio apologized to Takahiro for failing to dodge Bertile's lance. However, Takahiro admitted that the blame lay with him. He realized that Mio hadn't been jousting long enough to pull off such a precise dodge at close range, something he should have anticipated. Mio's expression turned somber, and Takahiro noticed it immediately. He understood that she looked at him that way because she felt his frustration. As her squire, even if unofficial, it was his responsibility to support her. Seeing how much she trusted him, Takahiro resolved to focus on helping her. He encouraged Mio to carefully observe Bertile's movements in the final round. His plan was for Mio to counterattack at the same moment her opponent struck while dodging her attack. Takahiro was certain this would work. Reassured, Mio nodded and rode her horse back to the starting position. Takahiro called out to her once more, bolstering her confidence, telling her she would win. Shinonome announced to the spectators that the final round was about to begin. The audience watched with bated breath as Mio and Bertile took their positions. The tension was palpable as both riders spurred their horses forward at full speed. Bertile was determined to end the match with this strike, while Mio, emboldened by Takahiro's unwavering support, believed she could win. Takahiro shouted encouragement from the sidelines, his voice full of conviction. The bond between a knight and her squire shone brightly as their shared love for jousting fueled their determination. As the two riders closed in, Bertile aimed for a feather fly attack. But Mio managed to dodge her strike and countered with precision, hitting Bertile and forcing her to drop her lance. The match was over. Mio had won. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause. Mio was overjoyed with her victory, unable to contain her excitement. From the Academy's garden, Lisa and Fiona observed the match. Fiona dismissed Mio's victory as mere luck, but Lisa had a hunch that Takahiro was not just some ordinary guy. Similarly, Reina and Celia watched from the student council room. However, Bertile, ever noble, told her friends that the match had been a fair contest between knights and as such, they should congratulate the victor. That, she said, was the essence of being a noble. After dismounting from her horse, Mio ran toward Takahiro and threw her arms around him in a heartfelt embrace. Overcome with emotion, she thanked him for guiding her to victory. Then, realizing her enthusiasm, Mio pulled away and apologized for her recklessness earlier, expressing her deep gratitude not only to Takahiro but also to Noelle, Akane, Ayako, and Sakura. That day, under the blooming cherry blossoms, a young knight was born at Winford Academy. That night, Mio and the others raised their glasses to celebrate her victory in the jousting match against Bertie Lay. Mio was deeply grateful to everyone who had helped her. Akane complimented Mio on her outstanding performance. Suddenly, Noelle came up from behind Mio and grabbed her chest, playfully remarking that Mio had something nice. Startled, Mio attributed her success to Takahiro, but Takahiro reassured her, saying she had worked hard. Akane agreed, adding that while Bertie Lay wasn't as formidable as expected, she was still decent. She also mentioned that even though Mio was just a beginner, she had managed to win. Mio smiled at the compliment. Noelle noted how Mio's counterattack at the last moment was absolutely perfect. Akane praised Mio's exceptional ability to read the match, but suggested that she should have moved her arm further inward during the second round. Hearing Akane's critique, Ayako urged her to stop, reminding them that Mio was done with jousting. Mio laughed, declaring that starting tomorrow she'd just be an ordinary girl again. Noelle teased her, saying it sounded like Mio was implying that Noelle and Akane weren't normal girls, though Mio quickly clarified that she didn't mean it that way. Akane commented that they'd need to be more cautious if there were other students with talent like Mio's out there. Noelle chimed in, reminding everyone that the summer tournament wasn't far off. Mio cheered on Noelle and Akane, and Noelle asked if Akane had developed any new techniques for the tournament. Akane admitted she wasn't fully confident in her skills yet, but when Noelle pressed her to share what kind of techniques she was working on, Akane refused to reveal anything. Mio held onto the jousting helmet that Takahiro had given her. The next morning, Akane boarded the bus for jousting practice. Mio greeted her as she stepped onto the bus. Akane asked if Mio wasn't done with practice, and Mio replied that she'd woken up early out of habit. Akane commented that it wasn't surprising, as getting up early had become second nature to Mio during her jousting training. Mio remarked that it must be tough for Akane to keep up with such a rigorous routine every day, but Akane replied that being a knight required discipline. Akane joked that watching her practice might not be much fun, but Mio said she didn't mind. She complimented Akane on how spotless her equipment always looked. Akane explained that a knight couldn't be called one if their gear wasn't clean. It was the first lesson she'd learned when she started jousting. Mio asked if Akane had really started jousting at the age of 5. Akane fondly recalled those early days, sharing how her parents often took her to watch jousting matches. It was during one of those moments that she realized she wanted to become a knight, calling it her destiny. When they arrived at the training grounds, they noticed a knight in black armor. The knight galloped across the field, aiming their lance at various targets, hitting each one flawlessly. Impressed, Mio commented on the knight's incredible skill. Akane speculated that the knight must be in Class A like herself, though she had never seen that armor before. She guessed the knight might be a new student. The mysterious knight left the training grounds without saying a word. In the student infirmary, Ayako was examining Takahiro's leg. He mentioned he was still feeling pain from his old injury. Ayako assured him that the injury should have healed by now, that whether he could become a knight again depended on how he felt. If the pain persisted, she advised him to consult a specialist. Fiona and Lisa entered the infirmary to grab some bandages, but from behind the curtain, Ayako and Takahiro's positions made it look as though something inappropriate was happening. Fiona, shocked, quickly blocked Lisa from seeing further. During class, Mio was playing with a knight figurine on horseback instead of focusing on her lessons. She glanced out the window, watching others practice jousting. The teacher approached her, urging Mio to pay attention to the lesson. After school, Mio went to watch the knights train instead of heading home. It seemed like she still had a longing for jousting. Even during her part-time job at a cafe, she found herself using a tuning fork on a sandwich she had prepared, pretending it was a lance. Ayako arrived and was surprised to see Mio had already finished assembling the sandwiches. Mio greeted her with a smile. That evening, Mio soaked in the bath, staring at the scratch on her hand, a mark left from her jousting days. After finishing her bath, she looked at her slightly dirty jousting helmet. Unable to leave it as it was, she began to clean it. The next day, Takahiro went to the jousting practice grounds and noticed a few jousting lances lying around. He reached out to pick one up, wanting to relive his memories of jousting, but he hesitated and decided against it. In the backyard, Lisa and Fiona were pushing a cart full of jousting equipment. Fiona suddenly stopped, complaining of exhaustion. She grumbled about why she and Lisa had to move such heavy loads, calling it old-fashioned to make first-year students do all the cleaning. Fiona suggested they stop, arguing that tasks like these should be given to those without talent. She was confident that if Lisa won the summer tournament, they wouldn't have to deal with such chores anymore. Just then, Akane approached them and asked if they were first years. She criticized their behavior, reminding them that they wouldn't win without the equipment. Fiona scoffed at Akane's words, dismissing her concern and claiming that equipment had nothing to do with someone's abilities. Akane retorted that a true knight never forgets to show gratitude toward their gear. Fiona cut her off, mockingly calling jousting a stupid competition, which shocked Akane. Fiona went on to ridicule the knight curriculum, saying it was pathetic how students from that program lost to regular students. She called the program low-level and confidently claimed that if all the upperclassmen were like Akane, not only would Lisa win, but she might even dominate. Akane warned Fiona not to be overconfident. Fiona taunted her further, asking if Lisa would show her skills right there and then. Akane responded that a wise knight never wields their lance without careful consideration. Fiona smirked, guessing that Akane would be humiliated if she were defeated by a first year. Lisa, stepping in, said she didn't mind settling things immediately. Akane and Lisa quickly put on their armor and mounted their horses. As they began their match, Noelle, who was lounging on a tree swing nearby, was startled when Akane and her horse dashed past. Takahiro, also nearby, grew curious about what Akane was up to. Akane rode straight to the training grounds, where Lisa appeared wearing the same black armor Akane had seen before. Fiona cheered Lisa on, sarcastically telling her to go easy on the upperclassmen. Takahiro arrived at the scene and asked what was going on. Fiona was startled to see Takahiro, referring to him mockingly as the pervy upperclassman. She told him they were clearly about to duel and yelled at Lisa to score points quickly. Takahiro, concerned, asked if they had gotten permission to fight, to which Fiona nonchalantly replied that they hadn't. Takahiro shouted at Akane, urging her not to make such a reckless decision, but it was clear neither of them intended to back down. Meanwhile, Mio was feeding Sakura, her horse, and thanked him. She admitted she wouldn't have won without him letting her ride. Mio wondered aloud who might ride Sakura in the summer tournament. Just then, James approached her, calling out her name. Surprised, Mio turned to him and said she was planning to return the armor she had borrowed. James noticed it had been cleaned and told her it was a gift from him. He asked if she no longer needed it, but Mio couldn't bring herself to respond. She quickly excused herself, saying she had to get to work. Back at the practice field, Akane and Lisa were gearing up for their match. As they launched their horses forward, Akane counted down from 3 before making her move. She attacked, but Lisa read her strategy effortlessly. Lisa noted that while Akane's aim was precise, her intentions were far too obvious. Lisa dodged the attack and retaliated with a strong strike, but it wasn't enough to knock Akane down. Fiona and Takahiro watched from the sidelines. Takahiro started to realize that the rumors about Lisa's skill were true. Akane acknowledged Lisa's impressive talent, but remained confident that Lisa wouldn't let her guard down even while leading. Elsewhere, Mio was by the riverbank when she noticed a jousting match in progress. During the second round, both knights charged at each other, but neither was unseated. Their lances merely clashed mid-air, resulting in a draw. Frustrated, Fiona shouted, complaining about the outcome and taunting Akane, asking if she even knew when to quit. Akane shook her head, incredulous at the defiance of such a troublesome underclassman at Winford Academy. Fiona replaced Lisa's lance and told her to win the next round. Lisa nodded while Akane decided to use her new technique, even though it wasn't perfected yet. She was determined to try. Mio, rushing toward the match, finally realized it was Akane who was dueling. As Akane and Lisa started the third round, they charged forward on their horses, lances ready. Akane launched her attack, but Lisa, analyzing her movements, thought it was the same as before and deemed the effort futile. Initially, Lisa dodged successfully, but Akane quickly pulled her lance back for another strike. With confidence in her move, Akane thrust her lance again, hitting Lisa's arm. Fiona, puzzled, turned to Takahiro and asked what had just happened. Takahiro explained that the move was called a double attack. Both he and Mio praised Akane's impressive use of her new technique. Lisa called Akane annoying but admitted she was strong. For the first time, Lisa felt she had a truly formidable opponent. Fiona acknowledged that the third round was surprising but noted that the score remained tied. She remained confident that Lisa wouldn't lose to Akane. Suddenly, Noelle arrived on horseback riding toward Takahiro and Fiona. She informed them that Rina, the student council vice president, was on her way. Fiona asked why that mattered. Noelle explained that matches without school approval were prohibited, and if the student council found out, neither Akane nor Lisa would be allowed to participate in the summer tournament. Fiona panicked, exclaiming that Lisa had to be in the tournament. However, Lisa and Akane had already begun their fourth round. Noelle and Fiona shouted at them to stop, but their efforts were in vain. Takahiro quickly borrowed Noelle's horse and raced the field. Picking up one of the lances used in the match, he charged toward Akane and Lisa. Just as their lances were about to clash, Takahiro struck both lances, deflecting them to prevent any contact. His sudden action left Akane and Lisa stunned. Miyo, watching from a distance, observed Takahiro's bold move. At that moment, Rana arrived with two other student council members. She sternly told Akane and Lisa that dueling was not allowed. Takahiro, stepping in, asked Rana what the issue was. Rana questioned Takahiro about his presence there. Thinking quickly, Takahiro explained that they were simply helping Lisa, the new student, practice horseback riding. Rana had accepted his explanation as a misunderstanding, though one of her companions seemed skeptical. Rana warned them not to trouble the student council again, and both Takahiro and Akane nodded in agreement. Rana then led her companions away. Once they were gone, Fiona sighed in relief, grateful that the student council hadn't uncovered the truth. Noelle complimented Takahiro, and Akane expressed her gratitude, saying he had saved both her and Lisa. She marveled at how he had deflected two lances simultaneously, comparing his skill to that of a god. Takahiro glanced at his hand, seemingly lost in thought. Lisa, however, called him reckless, questioning if there wasn't another way to resolve the situation. She also remarked that his hand must be numb by now. Akane turned to Lisa, saying that unfortunately they would have to settle their match during the summer tournament. Lisa smiled, saying she looked forward to it. Noelle then introduced herself to Lisa, solidifying their newfound camaraderie. Meanwhile, Miyo continued to watch from afar. Her heart stirred as she thought about her desire to be more than a spectator. Even though she didn't think she was as skilled as the others, she longed to ride Sakura again. She wanted to be like Akane, Noelle, and Takahiro, a true knight. Finally, unable to hold back, Miyo ran toward them, shouting that she loved jousting and wanted to join the tournament. Her sudden declaration left everyone surprised. And so the wheel of fate turned once more, signaling the start of a new season for the Knights. Miyo approached James, calling out to him. It seemed she wanted to borrow the armor again. That day, Miyo signed up to participate in the summer joust tournament. She handed her application to Reina, the vice president of the student council. Of course, Miyo's application wasn't immediately accepted because throughout the history of Winford Academy's summer joust tournament, no regular student had ever attempted to register. Reina met with Celia in her office to discuss how to respond to Miyo's application. According to Celia, it wasn't a problem since Miyo had defeated Bertile a few days ago. Besides, there were no rules prohibiting regular students from participating, so Miyo's application was accepted. Miyo shared the news with all of her friends, telling them that she had received permission to compete in the summer tournament. She thanked everyone and promised to do her best. That afternoon, Miyo went back to her part-time job at the cafe. Ayako congratulated Miyo on securing permission to compete in the tournament. Miyo explained to Akane and Takahiro that things would get tougher from here on out since she was just starting joust and needed as much practice as possible. Miyo asked Takahiro if he would help her again, but quickly apologized, acknowledging that their agreement for him to act as her squire was only until her duel with Bertile had concluded. Out of nowhere, Noelle squeezed Miyo's chest, causing her to scream loudly. Noelle teased that they could all train together tomorrow. Akane mentioned that if Miyo was participating in the tournament, she would also become her rival and Akane wouldn't hold back. Miyo understood this and expressed her gratitude to both Noelle and Akane. The next day, Reina met Miyo in front of the auditorium to discuss something. Afterward, Miyo went looking for Noelle in her classroom but couldn't find her. Suddenly, Takahiro showed up and asked what Miyo was up to. Miyo explained that Celia had invited her to have tea in the student council room and had asked Miyo to bring her friends along, which is why she was searching for Noelle. Since Noelle wasn't in her classroom, Miyo invited Takahiro instead, and he agreed to come. Miyo felt a bit nervous, realizing that such an opportunity might not come again. Out of the blue, Akane also wanted to join them. Miyo, of course, allowed her to come along, thinking that the more, the merrier. Spotting Lisa and Fiona, Miyo invited them to join the tea as well. Unfortunately, Fiona wasn't interested in having tea with a large group, so Miyo returned to ask Lisa again, and Lisa agreed. Miyo was very grateful to her, and they continued their search for Noelle, who was nowhere to be found. At that moment, Noelle was by the riverside grooming her beloved horse, Etoile. She spoke to Etoile, saying the tournament was fast approaching and that she wanted them to fight until the very end. Etoile neighed loudly, as if to show understanding of Noelle's words. That afternoon, Miyo, Takahiro, Akane, and Lisa went to the student council room. Miyo knocked on the door and Celia invited them in. She thanked Miyo and the others for coming to her tea gathering. Noticing bear decorations and teddy bears scattered around the room, Miyo asked if Celia liked furry animals. Celia responded enthusiastically, saying bears were wonderful. They were strong, round, soft, and had smooth fur. Mio agreed with her. Meanwhile, Akane still couldn't believe she was sitting in the student council room having tea with President Celia. She felt so nervous that her hands were trembling. Akane nearly fainted from excitement, but kept trying to calm herself as she prepared to sip the tea Celia had made. Akane was completely mesmerized by seeing Celia's face up close. She fainted from sheer happiness at meeting Celia. Noticing that Lisa had been unusually quiet, Celia encouraged her not to stay silent. Both Lisa and Mio were surprised that Celia knew Lisa's name despite her being a new student. Celia explained that as the student council president, she was familiar with everyone's names. She remarked that the competition in the upcoming summer tournament seemed like it would be more intense than ever. Celia acknowledged that while Lisa was new, she was aware of her impressive skills. She also noted that Akane had been honing her abilities and that there were many other talented participants. Mio commented that many people believed Celia was the top competitor. Celia admitted that she aimed to win, but Joust was unpredictable, which was why she had invited Takahiro to be her squire. She needed his help to succeed. Celia asked Takahiro if he had made up his mind yet. Takahiro apologized and admitted that he hadn't. Celia reassured him, saying that her older sister had nothing to do with this matter, so he didn't need to worry. However, Takahiro confessed that he wasn't confident in his ability to be a good squire and wasn't sure he could be of any use to the knights. Hearing his explanation, Celia apologized for seeming impatient about getting an answer, mentioning that Rina often scolded her for it. Lisa then chimed in, questioning why Celia didn't just choose one of the many others who could be her squire. Celia explained that while she had received numerous offers, she preferred to personally choose her partner, and that choice was Takahiro. Lisa declared that she was determined to win and wouldn't lose to anyone. Celia encouraged everyone to do their best. She also reminded them that in Joust, winning wasn't everything. Sometimes valuable lessons could be learned in defeat. Lisa, however, disagreed, insisting that victory was everything. The tension in the room made Mio feel awkward, so she quickly asked why Celia had invited her to tea. Celia replied that she was simply curious about why a regular student like Mio wanted to join the tournament. Mio explained that her involvement in Joust had been accidental and that she wasn't used to it yet. Out of nowhere, Celia teased, suggesting there might be a romantic reason. Mio hastily denied it, accidentally blurting out that she just wanted to stay together. Flustered, Mio realized she had misspoken again. Celia smiled, saying it seemed like Mio genuinely enjoyed Joust. Mio returned the smile, admitting that she did. Celia nodded in understanding and offered to pour her another cup of tea. That afternoon, Mio practiced stretching exercises with Noelle. She shared her experience of having tea with Celia earlier at school. In response, Noelle deliberately made the stretches more painful for Mio, teasing her for not inviting her to join the tea gathering. Mio explained that she had searched everywhere for Noelle but couldn't find her. Noelle admitted she had seen Celia at several parties hosted by her father's business associates but had never entered the student council room. Mio promised to invite Noelle next time. Noelle then invited Mio to her house for the upcoming holiday and suggested that Mio bring Takahiro along as well. Excited, Mio agreed and said she couldn't wait to visit Noelle's house. Meanwhile, Akane lay sprawled on the grass, hugging a teddy bear. She still hadn't regained consciousness after being overwhelmed with joy from meeting Celia. The long-awaited day finally arrived. Mio and Takahiro set off together to visit Noelle's house. From a distance, they were in awe of the grandeur of Noelle's house. As they walked through the garden and past the statues surrounding the estate, Mio marveled at how enormous the house was. She couldn't believe Noelle was a noble. That's when Takahiro remembered Noelle's full name, Ascot Noelle Maris, belonging to the renowned Ascot Marcos family, famous throughout Helen's Hill for their immense wealth. Noelle greeted Mio and Takahiro warmly, thanking them for coming to her home. Mio asked if Noelle was really the successor to the Marquisate. Noelle humbly responded that the title belonged to her father and she was just herself. She then invited them inside. Before entering, Takahiro noticed a broken knight statue in the front yard and Mio couldn't understand why it was in ruins. As they stepped into the house, Takahiro cautioned Mio to be careful not to break anything, and she nodded earnestly. Inside, Noelle introduced her younger sister, Mireille, to Mio and Takahiro. Mireille greeted them cheerfully and introduced herself as Ascot Mireille Maros. She expressed how happy she was to meet them, having heard so much about them from Noelle. Mio returned the greeting and remarked how kind Noelle was to everyone. Mireille admitted she recognized them because Noelle frequently talked about them. Mio and Takahiro suggested Mireille call them by their first names to feel more at ease. They sat down for tea, which Mireille seemed to enjoy. Mio mentioned that Ayako had taught her how to make it. Curious, Mireille asked who Ayako was. Takahiro explained that Ayako was the doctor at Winford Academy and also the manager at Tart Time. Mio then added that Noelle worked at Tart Time too, which caused Noelle to quickly cover Mio's mouth. Mireille then decided to read Takahiro's fortune using her cards. Mio eagerly wondered if the cards would reveal Takahiro's future romantic partner. Noelle interpreted the cards, saying that Takahiro would soon fall in love with someone close to him. Both Mio and Noelle were intrigued and asked if it was true, but Takahiro hesitated and asked them not to press the matter. Mireille asked if the fortune wasn't accurate, but Takahiro didn't outright deny it. Mio joked that in manga, people sometimes don't realize when they're falling in love. Noelle grew curious about who might make Takahiro fall for them. Mireille playfully asked who the closest person to Takahiro was, and he responded that it was James. The answer made everyone wonder if Takahiro might be gay. Takahiro was taken aback and asked how they could jump to such a conclusion. Mio then asked if there was anyone else he was close to, suggesting perhaps his horse. Takahiro admitted he did have a strong fondness for horses. Mireille understood, explaining that she loved horses too because they were born to run, exuded elegance with their perfect forms, and were truly extraordinary creatures. Noelle chimed in, mentioning Mireille's passion for jousting and horses. Mireille elaborated, saying that in jousting, the bond between the horse and rider was paramount. They put everything on the line for a single charge, which she found noble and inspiring. After their conversation, Mireille invited them to visit the flower garden around the estate. She introduced them to several flowers, including English primroses and snowdrops. Mio was enchanted by the beauty of the blossoms. Mireille asked Mio if she was also a knight. Mio explained that she was just a beginner. Takahiro commented that it was his first time visiting such a beautiful flower garden, and Mireille revealed that she was the one who cared for it and had full authority over its upkeep. Takahiro complimented the garden, saying it was so beautiful because the person tending it was beautiful too. Mireille blushed at his words. Mio remarked that Takahiro had suddenly become quite poetic that day, which made Mireille smile. The day felt so enjoyable, and Mireille asked Takahiro and Mio to visit her house again sometime. Both Takahiro and Mio promised that they would definitely come back to spend time with her. Noelle thanked Mio and Takahiro for coming and offered to walk them to the front door. Suddenly, the door swung open. It was Noelle's father returning home. Mireille quickly greeted him. Noelle's father noticed Mio and Takahiro and asked if they were Noelle's friends. Takahiro and Mio promptly introduced themselves by their full names. Smiling, Noelle's father shook their hands and thanked them for being kind to his daughters. He then asked how they had become friends. Mio explained that they were all students at Winford Academy. Upon hearing Winford Academy, Noelle's father immediately guessed that Takahiro and Mio were involved in jousting. Noelle confirmed this, adding that she had invited them over and that Mireille had been delighted to meet them. However, Noelle's father abruptly told Mio and Takahiro to leave the house and walked away. Noelle apologized for her father's rudeness, but Takahiro assured her it wasn't necessary, and Mio told her not to worry about it. Noelle explained that Mireille had loved jousting ever since she was a child. Even though Noelle had tried to protect her, Mireille had gotten injured yet still declared her wish to become a knight. Noelle participated in jousting for Mireille's sake. She believed that the stronger she became, the happier Mireille would be. For that reason, Noelle vowed she wouldn't lose to anyone. Later, at the cafe, Ayako asked Takahiro about the Marcus Ascot's estate. Takahiro responded by asking if Ayako knew about Noelle's family. Ayako, as Winford Academy's doctor, naturally knew about the families of its students. Takahiro guessed that the Marcus didn't hold a favorable view of jousting, likely because of Mireille's injury. That evening, Noelle bathed Mireille and told her she was determined to win the upcoming summer tournament. Mireille smiled, looking forward to her sister's victory. Meanwhile, before going to bed, Takahiro found himself thinking about injuries. He absent-mindedly touched his own injured leg, which stirred unresolved emotions. The next morning, Takahiro stood in the stables, gazing at a jousting lance. James suddenly appeared and compared jousting to a wonderful woman, saying that once someone fell in love with it, they could never forget. Takahiro admitted that he loved jousting, and even though he had tried to move on, he couldn't. If he could, Takahiro would dedicate his life to jousting, but he felt uncertain about fully committing as a squire. James asked if Takahiro had any regrets from his time as a knight. Takahiro remained silent, deep in thought. James simply smiled and said that was a good thing. He advised Takahiro to follow his heart, reminding him that life was long and people often wasted it worrying about everything else. James told him that if he ever felt he had made the wrong decision, he could always decide again, as humans always had the chance to start over. James' words left Takahiro pondering his situation. He realized he was standing at a crossroads with two paths before him, returning to his role as a knight or supporting someone else as a squire. Both choices carried risks, and he knew he couldn't make this decision recklessly. However, he also knew that both choices shared a common name: jousting. Winford Academy hosts a tournament every summer to determine the strongest knight. To prepare for the event, the knights trained diligently every day. One day, Takahiro was giving Sakura a bath. Meanwhile, Mio, Noelle, and Akane had just finished their practice and were feeling tired and sweaty. Noelle suggested they take a bath together, offering to scrub Mio's back. As Noelle touched Mio's back, Mio flinched, startled by the ticklish sensation, and asked Noelle to stop her playful antics. Takahiro asked Mio what her plans were for the next day. Mio said Akane had advised her to rest while she could. Akane nodded in agreement, stating that after intense training, rest was essential before diving back into hard work. According to Akane, training in such a way leads to great strength and beauty, much like a finely forged katana. Takahiro nodded in understanding. Akane also reminded him to take care of Cheyenne. Mio then asked Takahiro what his plans were for the next day and wondered if he'd be taking care of the horses again. Suddenly, Noelle called out to Mio, urging her to join the bath quickly so she could scrub her back right away. She even invited Akane, but Akane declined, saying she could manage on her own. The next morning, Takahiro was walking along the riverbank when he stopped abruptly. He spotted Lisa up in a tree, trying to rescue her cat. Lisa urged the cat not to move as she approached it and scooped it into her arms. She couldn't believe her cat had climbed the tree in the first place. Suddenly, the branch beneath them snapped, unable to hold their weight, and Lisa and the cat fell. Takahiro rushed to catch them just in time. Lisa ended up sitting on Takahiro as a result. To thank him, Lisa offered Takahiro some food and asked if he had eaten breakfast yet. Takahiro admitted he hadn't. Grateful, he accepted her food and started eating it. However, his expression changed the moment he took a bite. Lisa asked if he didn't like tacos. It turned out Takahiro was surprised by how spicy it was. Lisa laughed and told him he could have more if he liked. Although he initially declined, he eventually accepted her offer. Lisa waded into the river, commenting on how cold yet refreshing the water was, and invited Takahiro to join her. When he declined, Lisa playfully splashed water at him and stuck out her tongue teasingly. Takahiro asked Lisa why she was at school, and she explained that she lived there since she was a dorm student. Takahiro then wondered why she didn't go into town more often. Lisa said she planned to go later with Fiona, who had mentioned a restaurant that served delicious tarts. As they chatted, Lisa's cat, Sasami, suddenly meowed loudly. The cat was precariously perched, trying not to fall into the river. Lisa hurried to rescue her pet, but stumbled in the water. Thankfully, Takahiro caught her before she could fall. Unintentionally, they found themselves in close proximity once again. Meanwhile, Sasegi managed to save itself. Lisa remarked that this was the second time something like this had happened. When Takahiro asked what she meant, Lisa brushed it off, instead pointing out that his shoes were wet from stepping into the river. Takahiro assured her that his shoes dried quickly. He then complimented Lisa's necklace, particularly admiring the ring she had attached as a pendant. Suddenly, Reina called out to Lisa, informing her that Fiona was looking for her at the dorm. Reina urged Lisa to hurry and meet up with Fiona. Lisa quickly picked up Sasami and left. Takahiro told Reina that the earlier incident was just an accident and assured her that nothing else happened. Reina, however, invited Takahiro to have breakfast with her, and he accompanied her to a bench by the pond for their meal. Reina also lived in the school dormitory. During breakfast, Reina asked Takahiro if he would consider becoming Lisa's squire. She mentioned that for the past year, she had been observing Lisa's situation. Takahiro asked how long Reina had known Lisa, and Reina revealed that she had known her even before Lisa came to Helen's Hill. Reina explained that Lisa used to be cheerful and sociable. However, after losing her mother, the only family she had, her relatives began fighting over her inheritance. They even said no one was truly grieving her mother's death. Since then, Lisa had started distancing herself from others. The ring Lisa wore as a pendant on her necklace belonged to her mother. Reina was the one who recommended Lisa enroll at Winford Academy, hoping that jousting would help her rediscover herself. But it seemed her efforts were in vain as Lisa continued to isolate herself and Reina felt powerless to help. Takahiro then asked about Fiona. Reina said that Fiona and Lisa were similar. They both avoided forming connections and suffered alone in their isolation. While Lisa might appear strong, Reina feared she would eventually break down if she continued carrying everything by herself. Reina wasn't sure if Lisa could handle it all on her own. That's why she hoped Takahiro could be there for her. Reina believed that if Takahiro became Lisa's squire, it would help Lisa grow and move forward. She also acknowledged that Celia had likely asked the same of him. Apologizing for bringing it up, Reina concluded the conversation. As Takahiro walked back, he reflected on the requests from Lisa, Celia, Noelle, and Miyo. He knew he couldn't avoid making a decision. If he didn't participate in this summer tournament, he wouldn't be able to stay at the academy any longer. When Takahiro arrived at the stables, James asked him to brush Sakura. Afterward, James asked Takahiro to go into town to buy some supplies. He told Takahiro not to rush and suggested that he take some time to enjoy himself. Deciding to visit the stadium, Takahiro entered and imagined himself jousting there, even reenacting an attack stance from a match. Suddenly, he heard applause from Noelle and Mireille. Surprised, he asked why they were at the stadium. Noelle explained that she and Mireille often strolled there. She said the stadium symbolized Takahiro's strength, as it was a place where every knight dreamed of competing. Noelle confidently declared that she would one day compete and win at the stadium. Mireille wholeheartedly supported her sister, expressing her belief in Noelle's abilities. Noelle then wrapped her arm around Takahiro and said she had to win the summer tournament to achieve that goal. Mireille teased her sister, saying she was standing too close to Takahiro. Noelle apologized but quickly changed the subject, asking if Takahiro had eaten lunch. When Takahiro admitted he hadn't, Mireille eagerly invited him to join them for lunch. Noelle mentioned an Italian restaurant she loved. Although Takahiro initially wanted to decline, he couldn't refuse after seeing Mireille's hopeful expression. He agreed and they went to the Italian restaurant. The server brought out all the dishes Noelle had ordered, each one looking fancy and delicious. Takahiro was surprised by the variety, and Noelle explained that she had ordered plenty because Takahiro mentioned he was hungry earlier. Mireille even helped serve Takahiro some food. As they chatted, the conversation turned to the Lord Bunnings match. They were so engrossed in the discussion that Mireille almost knocked over her glass. Luckily, Takahiro managed to catch it in time. Their hands brushed as they both held onto the glass to steady it. Noelle noticed and jokingly reminded Takahiro that he was touching her younger sister's hand. Takahiro quickly apologized, but Noelle teased him further, saying that if he wanted to hold Mireille's hand, he would need her permission as Mireille's older sister. Both Takahiro and Mireille were flustered by Noelle's comment, but Noelle laughed, saying she was only joking. Mireille, a huge fan of jousting, expressed her desire to continue talking about it for as long as possible. Noticing Takahiro's empty plate, Mireille ordered more food for him, encouraging him to eat as much as he wanted without holding back. Takahiro said goodbye to Noelle and Mireille. That day, Mireille was overjoyed and expressed her desire to spend time with Takahiro again sometime. Before leaving, Noelle whispered to Takahiro to meet her later at tart time. Noelle then invited Mireille to go flower shopping with her. Feeling like he had eaten too much, Takahiro decided to go for a walk. Unfortunately for him, he bumped into Akane, who offered him more food. Akane handed him an umeboshi onigiri, saying that a healthy body leads to a healthy mind. She added that the onigiri might remind him of life in Japan. When Akane encouraged him to eat, Takahiro hesitated, already feeling full. But with no way to decline politely, he forced himself to eat it and complimented its taste. Akane smiled and said that eating properly was the first step toward improving one's skills in jousting. Takahiro asked if Akane thought about jousting even during holidays. She replied that there wasn't much time left before the summer tournament, and she wanted to become even a little stronger. Before parting, Akane asked if Takahiro could meet her at tart time later that evening. Takahiro agreed, and Akane said goodbye, thanking him again. As she walked away, Takahiro thanked her for the onigiri, and she turned to smile warmly at him. Continuing his walk, Takahiro visited the flower garden, where he spotted Celia. He approached her and asked why she was there. Celia replied that there didn't need to be a specific reason to visit such a beautiful place. When Takahiro asked if she often came there, Celia said she found the place calming and relaxing. Takahiro agreed, mentioning that he had discovered the garden when he first arrived in the country. Celia remarked that it was a shame they hadn't met sooner. If they had, their relationship might have been different, and perhaps Takahiro would have already become her squire. She mused that the garden might have become a special place for the two of them. Realizing what she had said, Celia quickly brushed it off, saying she shouldn't have spoken like that. She then offered Takahiro a piece of cake. Although he initially hesitated, Celia assured him she had baked it herself and jokingly added that it wasn't poisoned. Takahiro accepted the cake. As she handed it to him, their hands touched and Celia commented on how cold his hands were. She added that cold hands often indicated a warm heart, saying she believed Takahiro had a kind heart. After taking a bite, Takahiro complimented Celia's cake, saying it was delicious. Celia mentioned that she had considered making tea to go with it. Takahiro thanked her for the tea she had served him the previous day. Celia then asked if he had enjoyed himself. Takahiro admitted he had been surprised by all the teddy bears. He hadn't expected it, but thought they suited her perfectly. Celia thanked him and asked if he knew about Theodore Roosevelt. Takahiro recognized the name as that of a U.S. president. Celia elaborated, explaining that Roosevelt was the 26th President of the United States. She shared a story about how, during a hunting trip, Roosevelt refused to shoot an injured bear, saying it wasn't sportsmanlike. This act of kindness inspired the creation of the teddy bear, named after Roosevelt's nickname Teddy. Celia explained that she loved teddy bears not only because they were soft and cuddly, but also because they symbolized sportsmanship. She expressed her desire to embody that same sportsmanship as a knight. Realizing she had gotten carried away, Celia asked Takahiro to keep their conversation a secret. Takahiro promised to do so and said he would treat Celia next time as a thank you for the tea. Celia smiled and said she would look forward to it. Takahiro began his walk home, thinking he had spent too much of the day being lazy. Suddenly, Mio called out to him. She was sitting with Bertile, Emma, and An, enjoying a tea gathering. Takahiro approached them and asked Mio what they were up to. Mio explained that she had made some sweets for Takahiro earlier, but he hadn't been around to try them. She mentioned that they were now having tea together and noted how impressive Bertile was, even practicing on her days off. Apparently, Bertile trained more than necessary, even to the point of exhaustion, but her dedication never wavered. Bertile smiled and commented that it was destiny for her and Mio to meet. Mio offered Takahiro some of the sweets she had made, assuring him they were delicious. However, Takahiro apologized, explaining that he couldn't eat anymore. Mio insisted that he shouldn't feel shy around her, but Takahiro seriously insisted he was too full. Just then, a squirrel fell onto Mio's head. It climbed down to her arm, and Mio, enchanted by its cuteness, offered it something to eat. Bertile mentioned that during this season there weren't any acorns or sunflower seeds available. An added that squirrels are omnivorous and can eat a variety of things. Mio decided to offer the squirrel some of her cake, and the little creature happily devoured it. Everyone admired how adorable the squirrel looked as it nibbled on the treat. Suddenly, Aim pointed out to Bertile that more squirrels were gathering around them. Before they knew it, an entire swarm of squirrels appeared. Mio eagerly offered the rest of her cakes to the squirrels, but in an instant, the creatures jumped onto Mio, Bertile, An, Emma, and even Takahiro. The group let out startled cries as they struggled to handle the unexpected invasion. Meanwhile, James was busy cleaning Sakura's stable. Takahiro eventually returned home, his clothes completely filthy. He casually mentioned that he had encountered some squirrels before handing James his order and heading off to take a bath. James, now curious, wondered what exactly had happened to Takahiro. Later, when Takahiro arrived at tart time, Fiona suddenly remarked that Takahiro, the pervy upperclassman, had followed her to that place. She even accused him of being a stalker. Takahiro tried to clarify, explaining that he lived there. Fiona dismissed his explanation, claiming he had probably moved to tart time just because he knew she and Lisa would be there. Takahiro pleaded with Fiona not to misunderstand him. Noelle chimed in, reassuring Fiona that she was mistaken. Then, to everyone's surprise, Noelle blew on Fiona's face. Fiona was startled and demanded to know what Noelle was doing. Noelle said it was a gesture of friendship, though Fiona immediately rejected the notion. Noelle teased her further, saying Akane enjoyed it, prompting Akane to protest that she didn't like it either. Still, Noelle continued to poke fun, pointing out how Akane's face was turning red. Meanwhile, Lisa was enjoying a tart and commented on how delicious it was. Mio asked if Lisa wanted to try something else from the menu, and Lisa nodded. Watching Lisa, Takahiro remembered Reina's words, that if he stayed by Lisa's side, he could help her become a strong squire. Out of nowhere, Lisa handed Takahiro some food, remarking that he liked spicy things. Everyone's attention shifted to Takahiro and Lisa, creating an awkward yet heartwarming moment. That day, the knights enjoyed a brief break from their rigorous schedules, but as the day passed, their training resumed, with the looming summer tournament weighing heavily on their minds. The intense path of jousting awaited them once again, testing their resolve and dedication. That day, Akane was teaching the art of concentration through flower arranging. She carefully worked on her arrangement in front of Mio, Takahiro, and Noelle. While arranging flowers, she explained that one must maintain a clear mind and heart free from any doubts. The truth of one's inner thoughts and emotions, she said, would be reflected in the finished arrangement. Akane's arrangement turned out beautifully, prompting Mio to praise her skill. Takahiro agreed, noting how important focus is in jousting. Noelle decided to tease Akane by casually mentioning Celia's name. Startled, Akane accidentally snipped a large flower stem. Mio, looking around, also remarked about Celia, causing Akane to lose her concentration completely, ruining her arrangement. Takahiro asked how Akane planned to face Celia if she got this flustered just hearing her name. Akane nervously imagined herself competing against Celia and almost fainted at the thought. Stammering, she insisted that facing Celia had nothing to do with her feelings, but her fumbling only worsened her flower arrangement. Later that cloudy afternoon, Akane was training with her sword. She berated herself, calling herself foolish for claiming to be a knight. When it began to rain, Akane quickly sheathed her sword and shielded it under her arm to keep it dry. She ran toward a windmill and took shelter inside a small room beneath it. There she noticed a jacket and realized it belonged to Celia. Just then, Celia entered and greeted her, explaining that she too was seeking shelter from the rain. Akane was stunned to encounter Celia in such an unexpected place. Celia asked if Akane was there to escape the rain as well, marveling at the coincidence of their meeting. Overwhelmed with joy, Akane nearly fainted again, but she pulled herself together, forcing a smile and greeting Celia as calmly as she could, though she awkwardly commented on how sunny it was that day. Celia gently corrected her, advising her not to rely too much on weather forecasts. Celia, noticing her clothes were drenched, began removing them, including her undergarments. Akane was utterly shocked to see Celia undressing in front of her. Celia encouraged Akane to remove her wet clothes too, warning her about catching a cold. Akane refused at first, claiming that she was trained to withstand the cold. She quickly clarified that she didn't mean to imply Celia wasn't as resilient. Just then, Akane sneezed, prompting Celia to tease her, saying she'd been proven right. Reluctantly, Akane followed Celia's advice. They laid their wet clothes on the windmill's rotating mechanism to dry. Celia asked if Akane felt cold, and Akane insisted she didn't. Celia shared a survival tip about soldiers in cold climates, who would warm their hands by placing them inside the stomachs of dead horses. She laughed, saying they didn't have any dead horses, then embraced Akane, hoping her body warmth would help. Akane felt Celia's warmth, her heart racing. When Celia checked outside, the rain and storm seemed to have stopped. Akane was thrilled, thinking they could finally return. But just as they were about to put their clothes back on, the windmill started spinning again, carrying their garments out of reach. Akane tried to grab them, but the clothes were too high up. Celia suggested Akane climb onto her shoulders to retrieve them. Though hesitant, Akane followed her instructions, but their unstable position made it difficult. Akane pleaded with Celia to be more careful, but their clothes only got higher. In the commotion, Akane lost her balance and fell, unable to reach anything but a single sock. Their clothes continued to follow the windmill's motion and were eventually blown away by the wind. Feeling guilty, Akane apologized for not being of any help. Celia reassured her, telling her not to blame herself and not to worry about her either. Celia promised they'd find something to wear. Meanwhile, Takahiro was by the river, rushing down a horse when a bra floated past and got caught around his leg. Startled, he picked it up, wondering what was going on. The horse Cheyenne neighed loudly, alerting him to more clothes floating down the river. Takahiro stared at the scene, utterly confused and curious about what could have caused it. Mio called out to Takahiro and walked up to him. Takahiro glanced at her and remarked that it looked like Mio was wearing something of his. Confused, Mio asked what he meant, but Takahiro dismissed it and asked her to escort Sakura and the others back to the stables. He walked off carrying the bra he had found earlier. Mio couldn't help but find Takahiro's behavior odd. Meanwhile, Celia explained to Akane that windmills were originally used to harness wind power for grinding wheat. She admired windmills as they had supported human life for centuries and had even served as watchtowers during wars. Unfortunately, there was nothing usable in their current location, so Celia improvised with a rope. Turning her back to Akane, Celia started tying the rope around herself. Akane couldn't help but be captivated by Celia's elegant back, comparing it to something out of a painting. That very back, Akane thought, bore the dignity and grace of a prestigious school. She was so mesmerized that she didn't even notice Celia calling her repeatedly. Celia finally got her attention and asked her to pull the rope she was using to cover herself. Akane obeyed but pulled too tightly, causing discomfort. Despite their efforts, the single rope wasn't enough to cover both of them, and it only made it harder for them to move. Elsewhere, Fiona was walking along the riverbank, searching for something. Takahiro approached her and asked if she needed help. Fiona, sounding irritated, replied that she could handle it on her own. Takahiro then asked if she was looking for a bra, holding up the one he had found. Fiona was shocked, and Takahiro, after glancing at her noticeably flat chest, realized the bra couldn't possibly belong to her. Embarrassed, he apologized and admitted his mistake before walking away. Suddenly, Lisa appeared, saying she had found her cat. Noticing Fiona's expression, Lisa asked what was wrong, but Fiona just shouted that she didn't understand what had just happened. Back in the windmill's room, Celia and Akane were still stuck. The rope they had used only restricted their movement, so Akane used her sword to cut it. Celia remarked that they couldn't stay there forever. Akane suggested heading to the nearest building to find something to wear. She reasoned that since no one would likely be around, they could avoid being seen. However, when Akane opened the door, she quickly slammed it shut. Celia asked what was going on, and Akane explained that a group of students and their art teacher had arrived outside to paint. The teacher instructed the students to finish their paintings before leaving. Akane informed Celia about the situation. Meanwhile, Takahiro found another piece of clothing. a pair of pants, hanging on a tree branch near the windmill. From the windmill's window, Celia peeked out and suggested calling one of the students for help. Akane, however, strongly opposed the idea, unwilling to let anyone see Celia in her current state. She insisted they wait until the students were done painting, reasoning that it wouldn't take long since they were only students. Celia questioned whether painting could truly be finished that quickly, and Akane admitted that everyone worked at their own pace. Back by the river, Mio was still trying to coax Shan back to the stables. The horse stubbornly refused to move and instead walked further into the river, causing Mio to lose her footing and fall into the water. Cheyenne waded into the river to retrieve a pair of underwear that was floating downstream. Meanwhile, Takahiro headed toward the windmill, feeling certain that someone was inside. He entered the lower room of the windmill, but as he closed the door, the lock shifted and secured the door from the outside. Celia and Akane heard a noise. Akane quickly went to investigate and informed Celia that someone had arrived. Realizing they needed to hide, they searched the room for a place to conceal themselves. Finding no suitable spot, their attention turned to the flour being ground in the mill. Takahiro entered the milling room and called out, asking if anyone was there. Receiving no response, he climbed the stairs to where Celia and Akane were hiding. To his surprise, he spotted two statues of women in the room. Curious, Takahiro approached the statues for a closer look. He remarked that the statues looked oddly familiar. When Akane accidentally made a small sound, Takahiro was startled but brushed it off as his imagination. He examined the statues more closely, noting how realistic they appeared. Out of curiosity, he touched Akane's chest. This caused her to make a noise, which only made Takahiro more suspicious. To confirm his suspicions, he touched her again. This time, Akane, furious, retaliated by swinging her sword at him. Her attack shredded Takahiro's clothes, leaving him in his undergarments. Shocked, Takahiro called out, revealing his identity. Both Celia and Akane finally recognized him. Takahiro asked what they were doing in such a place. Celia replied that it was a long story. Takahiro nodded, understanding, and offered to fetch them clothes despite his own limited attire. When he tried to open the door, he found it locked. Akane asked what had happened to the door. Takahiro explained that the bar on the outside must have fallen, locking them in. They attempted to escape through the window, but found it impossible. As evening approached, Celia expressed her worry. She had a promise to meet a friend that day, someone she had known for a long time who was returning after recovering from an injury. Celia was desperate to see her friend but lamented that it seemed impossible in her current state, wearing only a makeshift cloth. Akane encouraged Celia not to give up, insisting that her friend was likely still waiting for her. Celia, however, feared she was already too late. Suddenly, Takahiro heard Cheyenne neighing outside. He suggested that Celia use the horse. Outside, Cheyenne was running at full speed, gripping the underwear it had retrieved from the river in its mouth. Akane questioned how they could escape when the door was locked and all three of them were inadequately dressed. Takahiro suggested that as the windmill had been used as a lookout in the past, there might be armor hidden there for emergencies. Lifting a floor panel, Takahiro uncovered a suit of armor. Akane insisted that Celia wear it. Celia hesitated, asking if Akane was certain about the decision, but Akane replied that there was no time to argue. Celia agreed, and Akane helped her put on the armor. As Celia tossed her hair, Akane caught the scent of her perfume, nearly losing her composure. Celia commented that although the armor was old, it was still in good condition. She then asked Takahiro about the locked door. Takahiro proposed creating a dust explosion using flour. By scattering the flour in the air and igniting it, they could blow open the door. Celia agreed to the plan. Outside, the students continued painting, unaware of the commotion inside. Takahiro prepared for the explosion, instructing Celia and Akane to take cover. He rigged a gun with a string to pull the trigger and tossed it upward. The resulting blast broke down the locked door. The students outside panicked at the sound of the explosion, but their teacher quickly calmed them down. Meanwhile, Akane whistled for Cheyenne, who approached promptly. Celia mounted the horse but surprised Akane by inviting her to ride along. The two rode Cheyenne together, galloping past the gathered students. Everyone watched in awe, and one of the students even called them goddesses. Takahiro hoped that Cheyenne would take good care of Celia and Akane as they rode off. He could only watch them from the doorway. Suddenly, a pair of underwear landed squarely on his head. As they rode together, Akane asked Celia why she had insisted on having her ride along. Celia replied that she couldn't bear to leave Akane behind in such a vulnerable state. Moved by Celia's words, Akane felt deeply touched. She even claimed she could hear Celia's heartbeat through the armor. Akane then realized something unusual. Despite being so close to Celia, she felt completely fine. This was a stark contrast to how she normally became overwhelmed and fainted whenever she was too happy or excited around Celia. After changing into proper clothes, Celia and Akane made their way to a doll shop. The shopkeeper assumed Celia wouldn't make it in time, but Celia apologized, relieved that she had arrived just before the shop closed. It turned out that the friend Celia had been talking about was a doll named Friedrich. Friedrich had been her #1 companion since she was a child. Although the doll still needed some finishing touches, it was finally ready to be taken home. Akane couldn't help but smile at Celia's heartful attachment to the doll. The next day, the school showcased a painting by one of the students. Miyo excitedly invited Takahiro and Akane to check it out. The painting, titled The Knight and the Goddess, depicted the exact moment Celia and Akane burst out of the windmill room on horseback. Takahiro and Akane stared at the painting, lost in thought. Noticing their reaction, Miyo asked what was wrong, but they simply replied, "It's nothing." In truth, both of them were deeply embarrassed. The painting brought back vivid memories of the previous day's events. The artist had even captured the smallest details, like Takahiro standing near the door with a pair of underwear on his head. One day, Noelle went to see her father to tell him that she would be participating in joust training with her friends. Noelle also mentioned that they would train hard for the upcoming summer tournament, and there was only 1 week left. Her father replied, asking if Noelle thought he would allow it. Noelle firmly stated that she wasn't asking for his permission, but was informing him that she would be going. Her father turned away, saying she could do as she pleased. Noelle bowed and left immediately. After closing the door to her father's study, Noelle was startled to see Mireille standing there. Mireille encouraged Noelle to do her best during the joust training and said she couldn't wait to see Noelle at the tournament. Noelle hugged Mireille and apologized to her. After saying her goodbyes, Mireille reminded her to be careful. Noelle's father could only watch her leave through the window. Everyone has their own reasons for liking or disliking jousts, and sometimes reasons for why they must fight and win. That day marked the first intense training session for the Knights. Bertile and Miyo trained together in a joust match, which ended in a tie. Both of their strikes were impressive. Noelle practiced running with weights, Lisa trained with her lance, while Akane worked on her concentration by calming her mind and spirit. Afterward, they practiced horseback riding and aimed their lances at targets. Ayako, Takahiro, and Emma observed from a distance. Ayako remarked how enthusiastic the Knights were on their first day of training, and Takahiro noted that it was because the tournament was getting closer. Ayako then excused herself to prepare dinner. She was in charge of coaching, medical care, and nutrition during a training. Thanks to Ayako, the student council had approved the training camp. Takahiro was responsible for managing the Knights' horses. Meanwhile, the school was busy preparing for the tournament event. Celia was in the student council room when Reina approached her to discuss the tournament schedule. Seeing Celia lost in thought, Reina asked what was on her mind. Celia said she was just thinking about how Miyo and her friends had already finished their first day of training. Reina grew curious about how hard they were working. Celia admitted that she had hoped they would invite her, even though she knew it wasn't possible for her to join. Reina pointed out that Celia was the strongest knight in the school, so people would naturally treat her differently and hold back when they were around her. Celia, however, didn't want people to see her for her title. She wanted them to notice her true self. Suddenly, Celia noticed Fiona stretching alone nearby. Celia thought Fiona seemed to prefer staying at the dorm rather than joining the training. Reina explained that Fiona had been invited but declined because she didn't like being in groups. Celia mused that being alone could feel lonely. That evening, the Knights gathered for dinner at their lodging. They thoroughly enjoyed the delicious food. Ayako asked Lisa if she liked the dish, even though it was raw. Lisa replied that the food was delicious, much to Ayako's delight. Ayako mentioned that Anne and Emma had helped her a little. Bertile suddenly chimed in, saying it was no big deal. Anne and Emma were puzzled as to why Bertile spoke on their behalf when they could have said it themselves. Bertile insisted that since Anne and Emma were part of her group, she could represent them. Anne and Emma shook their heads in unison, saying no. Miyo then thanked Bertile for letting them use her house as their lodging. Takahiro added that it helped everyone focus on the upcoming tournament. The other knights expressed their gratitude to Bertile as well. However, Anne suddenly interjected, saying there was no need to thank them, and Emma added that it was great that everyone could train hard together. Bertile, frustrated, exclaimed that she should have been the one to say that. Anne remarked that she and Emma were part of Bertile, but Bertile disagreed, saying it wasn't the same. Bertile suggested they all scrub each other's backs in the open air bath after dinner. They soon headed to the hot springs. Akane scrubbed Lisa's back and asked if she was being too rough. Lisa replied that it felt really good. Noelle, scrubbing Akane's back, teased that her skin was silky smooth and even mentioned how soft her chest was. Embarrassed, Akane told Noelle to stop behaving like that. Miyo was scrubbing Noelle's back and commented that Noelle's back was smooth and nice. They both laughed. Mio mentioned to Bear Tile that both the dining area and the bathhouse had a distinctly Japanese style. Bear Tile explained that her father was enamored with Japanese culture, which influenced the design. However, she clarified that the house was more of an Asian fusion, blending elements from various cultures beyond Japan. As they soaked in the hot spring, they found the water relaxing but slightly too hot. Bear Tile instructed everyone to stay composed while in the bath, claiming that was the Tokyo way. However, Mio pointed out that Bear Tile wasn't even from Tokyo, urging her not to overdo it. Suddenly, they noticed Akane turning red and nearly fainting. Akane admitted she had been trying to calm her heart this whole time. After bathing, they returned to their room and began a pillow fight. Bear Tile enthusiastically declared that pillow fights in yukata were a Japanese tradition. Excitedly, they started throwing pillows at each other. Akane, who had recovered a bit, thanked Lisa for fanning her earlier. Mio invited Akane and Lisa to join the pillow fight, but they declined. Ignoring their response, Noelle threw a pillow at them, knocking them over. Laughing, Lisa and Akane retaliated with equal force. The room soon erupted in laughter and chaos as they all enjoyed the pillow fight together. After their energy was spent, they prepared for bed. Bear Tile remarked that pillow fights were an unforgettable tradition, though Akane disagreed, saying it wasn't truly a Japanese tradition. Changing the subject, Bear Tile asked if anyone had already invited a squire to assist them in the tournament. The room suddenly fell silent, and everyone seemed nervous about answering. Noelle admitted she hadn't found the right person yet. Curious, she asked Bear Tile if she had a squire. Bear Tile proudly stated that Anne and Emma were her squires. Anne and Emma immediately retorted in unison that Bear Tile would be helpless without them. Noelle then turned to Lisa and Akane, asking about their plans. Both replied that they were used to fighting alone, but Lisa added that she wouldn't mind if she found a good squire, and Akane agreed with her sentiment. Finally, Noelle asked Mio about her choice. Mio surprised everyone by saying she wanted Takahiro to be her squire. Shocked, the group asked for an explanation. Mio said that Takahiro had complimented her sharp vision but pointed out that she still lacked knowledge of tactics. She believed having Takahiro with her would make things better. However, she acknowledged that it wasn't her decision to make. As the others mulled over Mio's statement, they began to realize that it ultimately depended on Takahiro's feelings, whether he would accept their request or not. Wishing everyone good night, Mio quickly fell asleep. Later that night, Noelle woke up suddenly from a bad dream. Hearing the sound of horses, she stepped outside to the terrace and spotted Takahiro practicing jousting alone. Takahiro seemed deeply committed to dedicating his life to joust, but he appeared unable to fully embrace the role of a squire. As he prepared to launch his lance at the target, he paused, seemingly lost in thought. After finishing his practice, Takahiro returned to the stables, wincing slightly as if his leg pain had returned. Surprised to see him, Noelle asked why he was still tending to the horses so late at night. Takahiro jumped slightly at her voice. Noelle explained that she had woken up from a bad dream and, in a playful tone, showed off her yukata, asking if she looked sexy. Takahiro let out a long sigh, clearly not in the mood for teasing. Noelle then asked if Takahiro had a moment to talk with her. Noelle and Takahiro took a walk outside the inn. Noelle shared a story about her father, who was once a knight that competed in jousting. He had always hoped that Noelle and Mireille would follow in his footsteps. However, Noelle ended up shattering both her father's and Mireille's dreams. Mireille fell from her horse during a match, and although Noelle was by her side, she couldn't prevent the accident. The surgery went smoothly, but Mireille lost her leg. The doctors couldn't explain it. Her wounds should have healed by then. Hearing this, Takahiro was reminded of his own injury. After the accident, Noelle's father grew to resent jousting, a sport he had once loved deeply. That was why he destroyed the knight statue they used to stand in their home. Noelle's father could never forgive jousting for taking Mireille's leg. Even Noelle herself considered quitting jousting, but Mireille wanted her to keep going. Mireille wished for Noelle to become a magnificent knight like their father. That was Mireille's dream for Noelle. Understanding this, Noelle promised to fulfill her sister's wish. She told Takahiro that she wanted to keep that promise more than anything. Noelle dreamed of making Mireille proud by becoming a great knight and winning the tournament. She longed to see Mireille smile again. For that reason, Noelle needed Takahiro's help. She asked him to become her squire. The next morning, the knights resumed their training together, starting with a group run. It was their final day of training as a team, and Bear Tile urged everyone to train hard so they wouldn't have any regrets. She led them in a cheer for jousting, declaring it the best, and everyone enthusiastically joined in. Mio and Noelle stretched together, and Noelle mentioned that she had already asked Takahiro to be her squire. Mio commented that having a squire like Takahiro would be amazing. After all, even Celia wanted him as her squire. Mio was convinced that Takahiro was exceptional. She then asked Noelle what Takahiro's response was. Noelle admitted that he hadn't given her an answer yet. Confused, Mio wondered why Takahiro hadn't chosen a knight to support. After finishing their final training session, the group gathered for dinner. Bertile reminded them that once they returned to Helen Hill, the tournament would officially begin. That night, Ayako served them an irresistible feast, urging the knights to eat their fill. As everyone else drifted off to sleep, Mio found herself unable to close her eyes. She eventually noticed Takahiro heading to the stables. Takahiro greeted Sakura and Itoe, who were resting after a long day. He told the horses to get plenty of rest before the tournament, just like their riders. Afterward, he went to the hot spring to relax. Sitting in the warm water, memories of his jousting days and his fall suddenly came flooding back. Mio's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. He turned, startled to see her standing there wrapped in nothing but a towel. Mio asked why he was there, but Takahiro flipped the question back at her. She explained that she couldn't sleep despite being exhausted. Mio then asked if Takahiro had just finished taking care of Sakura and the other horses. He nodded in response. As she turned to leave, Mio stopped and came back to ask him why he hadn't chosen a knight yet. She pointed out that Celia and Noelle were both strong knights, and either of them would be honored to have him as their squire. Takahiro explained that it wasn't that he didn't want to be a squire, he just couldn't bring himself to meet the expectations placed on him. He was afraid of failing and couldn't bear the thought of disappointing anyone. Mio asked if he was talking about Julianus, Celia's older brother. She then asked if Takahiro secretly wanted to become a knight again. Takahiro shook his head and said he no longer wished to be a knight. Mio pressed further, asking if he still loved jousting. If he did, why wouldn't he give it another shot? She stepped closer, telling him that if he missed the tournament, he wouldn't be able to stay at the academy. She urged him not to overthink things so much. Just do what you want to do, Mio said. There's no reason for you to carry everyone's expectations, and if you fail, you can always try again. Mio mentioned that she wanted Takahiro to be her squire, but she admitted she preferred seeing him as a knight. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew Mio's towel away. Embarrassed, she quickly covered herself with her hands and instinctively jumped toward Takahiro. In the process, her chest accidentally pressed against his face. Mio immediately pulled herself up, trying to continue their conversation. However, Ayako suddenly called out to Mio. Startled, Takahiro quickly submerged himself underwater to hide. Mio turned to Ayako and asked if she wanted to join the bath as well. Ayako commented on how Mio was still awake. Moments later, the rest of their friends appeared. They had woken up and gone looking for Mio. Ayako cheerfully noted that the best part of this place was being able to soak as much as they wanted. Lisa, noticing Mio's flushed face, asked why she looked so red. Mio brushed it off, saying she was fine. Ayako entered the water, but she suddenly felt something touch her leg. Emma wondered aloud if there might be fish in the bath. Mio suggested it was probably just Ayako's imagination. As Lisa looked up at the sky, she noticed a shooting star and pointed it out to everyone. Bertile enthusiastically suggested that they all make a wish together. Bertile wished to face Mio in the tournament. Noelle wished for Takahiro to become her squire and to win the summer tournament. Akane wished to improve even just a little. Lisa hoped to emerge victorious in the tournament. Mio, Fiona, and even Celia also made their wishes while gazing at the shooting star. Each person's thoughts and emotions were as unique as the stars shining in the night sky. The summer tournament was about to begin under the blazing heat of the summer sun.